Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and I hope you're all doing well on this Tuesday afternoon. I want to say a big hello and good morning, afternoon, or evening to Cornell, Sam, Lena, and Junaid, Ahmad, Kadima, Anahit. If I mispronounce anyone's name, I do apologize, and it's great to see all of you. Hopefully my stream and feed is coming through. Just before the stream, YouTube was giving me all sorts of errors, but it looks like we could be good to go. So, Daily Creative Challenge is upon us. I'm excited to be back, and let's go ahead and hop over to my screen. Nope, that's not. I have to press the button manually. All right, here we go. Here's the screen. Here's the template we're going to be working on. But if I hop over to Safari, we've got the Daily Creative Challenge landing page, behance.net/challenge/XD. Hey, Gus. Hey, Natalia. Hey, Aaron and Julio and Sam. Welcome, everyone. So if you're brand new to this whole shindig, let me talk a little bit about what you're going to be doing over the course of the next 2 weeks. If you haven't pressed that big blue button at the top yet, definitely go ahead and press it so you're notified when new challenges are released. Got Natalia from Brazil. Welcome. If you are tuning in live, let me know where you're tuning in from. Here's how things work. Each day you're going to receive a challenge, at least Monday to Friday, except the first Monday. And you can join us in our community chat, which is on Discord. I hop over here. There's about 50,000 people in Discord. Not right now, but in general, 50,000 designers are in Discord. There's some chat going on. You can get information about the daily challenges. You can ask questions. I do see someone's asking about how I'm doing. I'm okay, on and off. I'll talk more about that at some point. I want to get into designing, but I'm doing okay. I'm alive, which is great. And here streaming as much as I can. So you can also watch us live daily. We have shows all day, every day. And you can share your work. So you can hop into Discord, share it in the current challenge channel, and we do review those on a fairly consistent basis. And then down here, we're going to see all the challenges. Today's the first challenge of this round, and this is going to be a semi-progressive challenge. So the first week, we're going to be designing out the landing page for this finance or cryptocurrency, whatever you might want to, which direction you want to go. We're going to be designing out the landing page for that. And then the second week, which starts next Monday, we're going to be designing the mobile experience for that app, which is going to be a lot of fun. So go ahead and grab the starter file. And if you want to rewatch this later on, you can go ahead and press watch video. We've got someone from India, the Bay Area, San Francisco, Paraguay, El Salvador, Mexico, Germany, London. I love this. I love seeing people all over the world. All right, let me hop over to Adobe XD and we are going to get going. So here is the challenge template. If you're new to this whole thing, there's a few things you should take a look at. So we've got the prompt right here at the top, which goes over what we're going to be doing that specific day, some inspiration, and we curate these based on the theme of the challenge. And this down here was created by Andrea Hawk. And this is just so cool. It's a really nice component with a bunch of different states to give you some resources on icons and fonts and photos and tutorials and things like that, which is super cool. Andrea is very, very creative. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. So today, again, we're going to be creating the landing page for this specific website. And I'm not going to fill in the entire thing because we will be getting to some of it later in the week. And also I want to leave a little bit of inspiration for you, a little bit of gray area, so you can dive in there and customize it. And I'll note that even though I'm going to be designing and the prompt is for a finance or crypto website or service, feel free to do whatever you want. If you want to do a website on Animal Crossing or knitting or baseball, I don't know what it might be, but feel free to get experimental, right? So what we're going to do, there's a few things we're going to start with. One, I want to start by changing the actual landing page color. And, there's a lot of websites that are white and light, but I want to kind of go dark with this one. And of course, I could do something like this, which is definitely dark, but I might want to introduce a little bit of color. Throughout this challenge, there's going to be a little bit of, blue and purple splashed into things. So what I might want to do is just go on, this spectrum here and just add a little bit of maybe purple or blue somewhere in between. I don't want to go too crazy, probably not like this, maybe just dial it back a touch, just so we have a little bit in there, but it also helps kind of convey that darker feel to this landing page. Now, the second thing I might want to do is just to add a splash of color, is add an image and maybe a blob. I'm a big fan of blobs, right? So starting with the image, I'm going to hop over to Finder, and I do have a bunch of illustrations that I grabbed from a website. I forget what the website was, but I paid for a bunch of these, and I can just drag these in and pop them into place. These are massive images. But if you don't have a library of images, what you could do, and what I definitely recommend quite often, is going to your plugins panel and using the Undraw plugin. It's a fantastic plugin, gives you access to a ton of free illustrations, and you can just type in, let's say, finance, for example, and it's going to search through all these great illustrations that you can use in your projects. They're all vector-based, so you can change basically everything about them, which is great. Aaron is asking, can you do a gradient fill in XD? You absolutely can. So if I go over to any shape, or I go to the actual artboard under fill, right here at the top where it says solid color, you'll want to click on that, and you can do a linear gradient or a radial gradient. You can also add stops. You can adjust the direction. There's a lot of different things you can do with gradients, so you can absolutely do that. But for this one, I'm going to keep it nice and solid. So I've got this illustration looking pretty fancy. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller and position it right here, but maybe behind the illustration, maybe somewhere right about here, I want a blob. I love blobs, so I'm going to hop back over to Safari. Of course, you can create a blob in XD using an ellipse, but you can also go to blobmaker.app. It's a fantastic, very simple resource. You can control how many sides your blob has, right? You can control how blobby it is. I don't know if that's a word, but you can do that. And you can also randomize it, just like that. So you can have different shapes of your blobs. And when you're happy with it, you can either download the blob to your computer, or you can grab the embed code or the CSS, or you can copy the SVG to your clipboard. And what's nice about XD is you can copy an SVG, hop over back to XD, and boop, paste it. There we go. And it's vector, so you can just make it nice and large, right? I'm going to move this behind my illustration, and maybe for this one, the red definitely clashes a lot with the blue, so maybe we'll just bring in some of the purple we were talking about earlier. And this one's going to be a little bit lighter, right? So we can do something like this. And now we have this really nice looking blob. Hey, Valdair and Aaron. Now, nothing is a dumb question, but you're welcome for clarifying that for you. All right, so we've got that looking pretty good. And, an image and a blob can really bring a lot of life to your landing pages. Now, there's a few additional things we might want. We might want some links at the top. We might want a logo. And again, I'm going to be keeping things a little bit basic right now, because I do want you to fill in the rest. So maybe my logo is this, right? It's a little circle. And I'll probably add to this a little bit later on, but I do want to get to a few other things. And you know what I'm also going to do is I've got this great looking purple that I'm really liking, and I might want to use that purple throughout various elements of this project. So what I want to do is go down to my assets panel down here at the bottom. There's already a few colors saved in here, and you can definitely use those. But with this purple selected, I can press the plus button right over here to the left, and I can name that highlight purple. I can name it whatever it might be. I can name it Barney if I wanted to. Kind of looks like Barney. That way, if I'm using, let's say I want the logo over here to be purple as well, I can very easily click on it. But if I also want to update that purple throughout my entire project, I can right click, press edit, and then change that purple to whatever I want, and it's going to update everywhere, right? Great. Hey, Richard, welcome. And Anna's asking, what's the name of the plugin? So if you're referring to the illustration plugin, it is Undraw right over here to the left. All right, so we've got that looking pretty good. Now we might want some header text, for example. So what I can do is I can grab my text tool, and I'm going to, I'm going to click right over here and just type out, let's say, header line 1. Wow, I can't spell today. Line 1. Now, there's obviously a lot wrong with this text, right? It's way too small, and also the color is completely wrong. We probably would not want to use a red like this in a situation like this. So I can go ahead and grab this and drag this up like that, or I can just enter a specific value within my properties inspector. I can also change the typeface, so I might want, let's say, Babis is a font that I've been using quite a bit. There's a few different weights. So this one is the regular. I can go for semi-expanded, maybe extra bold, change the color to white, and then I can really start fine-tuning this. And obviously I'll probably want it left justified, and I can position it right over here, right? And maybe I also want maybe just all uppercase, right? And Anna's asking to Richard, I think, read the news, how are you, are you safe? Oh gosh, what's happening? Oh, it's a tornado. I hope all of you are safe. I know there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, so I hope all of you are staying safe. All right, we've got header line 1, and maybe I'll just also have header 2. Maybe we'll have 2 lines for this header. Of course, you can put them all within one specific text layer, or we can separate them completely up to you. And maybe we'll also want some description text. So for this one, instead of single clicking, I might want to confine the text in a specific area. So I can click and drag, and maybe that's the absolute endpoint for my text. And I'll just leave it at that. Now, of course, if I start typing, it's going to use, first of all, I can't spell. But second of all, it's going to use the last typeface that I used. Definitely don't want that for a description, right? So the first thing I might want to do is change the typeface. So I'm going to go for Sophia Pro. This is bothering me. I'm going to make sure I spell correctly. There we go. And I definitely want this a lot smaller. Now, the reason I'm not using Babis for that is, a display typeface like this, if you were to use it for a description, it's going to look very small. It's going to be a little bit hard to read. It's just not going to feel right. So I want to go for something a little bit more traditional for an area like this. And just to fill this in very quickly, what I can use is the Lorem Ipsum plugin. I can fill with placeholder text. There's a few conditions you can put in there, insert text, and there we go. Now, of course, I might want to adjust the line height so it matches like that. There we go. I got 2 lines. That looks pretty good. All right, so we have a bit of description right there. And as I'm building out these, headers and descriptions, I may also want to add these to my assets panel as well. So if I hop over to my assets one more time, I can press that plus button beside the character styles. That adds it over there. So again, if I do use it throughout my project, I can very easily right-click, press edit, change this to everyone's favorite font, Papyrus, and we have a fantastic looking landing page. All right, no, we don't. I'm gonna pop that back over there. Great, so this is looking pretty good. We've got our header, we've got our text. I might want to make this a little bit smaller, honestly. There we go, there's our description. And now down below, we might also want some call to actions. So we might want a button that's solid, and maybe we also want a button that might be outlined, right? So let's go ahead and create some buttons. I'm gonna grab my rectangle and draw one out, just like this. Let me zoom in so we can really see our button as we're creating it. And for this, this is more of a sort of a futuristic landing page. It's not very traditional. And Aaron's saying, not gonna lie, the Papyrus did make my eye twitch a little. I agree. And so for this button, we might want to go a little bit rounded. Of course, we can do a little bit rounded like this, maybe, 8 pixels, doesn't look too bad. 16 is definitely on the rounded side. Or we can just go all out, right? And we can just round it out completely. And you're going to see in a moment that when we start using components and states, you can always make changes to that a little bit later on. So we've got our button here, and to really drive the user's eye to this button, we may not want to leave it white. So in this case, I'm going to just grab my eyedropper, and we can either use the purple, but it does clash a little bit with the blue in the background, or the dark color in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and sample the light blue. Richard is asking, where did you get the cool illustration? This one, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's from Craftwork Design. I think it's from Craftwork. And I purchased one of their subscriptions, so I have access to a ton of different, Gus says, Howard is like more of a Comic Sans man. I purchased their subscription, which gives me access to a ton of different illustrations, which is fantastic. But of course, Undraw is a great plugin in XD that you can use. So we've got this button right here. And we may want a CTA copy. So let's go for, let's say, explore more, for example. And for these buttons, maybe we could potentially go back to the Babis font, right? So what I can do, we'll see how that looks. And because this one has various weights and some are condensed, some are a little bit expanded, I can experiment with that a little bit. So there's the expanded or semi-expanded, and then we've got bold. I don't know. Let me know how you feel in the chat. But I'm going to position this, let's say about 24 pixels from the button, and I'm going to drag this out, and we've got a cool looking button. Now, to make sure we use this throughout our project and we can update it later on, I want to make sure to turn this into a component. So I've got both these elements selected. Now, inside of my assets panel, I've got the component section down here at the bottom, and I can press that plus button one more time, go ahead and name this button, and there's a few things we can do now. One, we can turn on padding over to the left. I'm not too worried about stacking at this point. We're going to explore stacking a little bit later on in the challenge, but what padding will allow you to do is you'll be able to define how much space is around the various elements inside of this container. In this case, it's a button. So I can make sure, let's say each one is 24 pixels, right? But what's more important is it'll also allow that background to automatically expand as you are typing. Cornell is asking, is the landing page the whole page or just the top part that we can see when it loads? So this challenge is just the top part. It's above the fold. We're going to do a lot over the course of the week that explores what's below the fold, but for now, just above the fold. So if I just maybe wanted to get rid of the more, for example, or I want to add it back, as I'm typing, it expands really nicely. But another benefit of using components is the ability to add states. So we might also want an outline button, for example. So I go ahead and press the plus button, create a new state. We could also create hover states, which we'll get to in a second. I can create a new state just like that, and this might be outlined. And for this, I'm going to simply turn off the fill and set the border to this blue color. Maybe I'll bump up the size a little bit. And I can also change possibly the text in the center to this blue color. I don't know how I feel about that. It kind of clashes a little bit, doesn't it? I think the white text looks a little bit better, but then of course, the big question is, should the border match the text? And probably, honestly. So I'm going to change this back to the audio and visual is so off. Oh no. If anyone else is experiencing that, let me know, and I will. I'll probably won't be able to fix it for this stream, but I will definitely fix it for tomorrow's stream. Let me see if I can do a quick fix. Probably not, but hopefully try refreshing the page. Maybe it's just one person. All right, so we've got our outline border and we've got our default state. So now I can go ahead and just drag this out and switch over to the outline state if I wanted to, and just type in maybe sign up, for example, right? There we go. Perfect. That looks pretty good. Let's see how that looks. Beautiful. All right. So one more state we can add is a hover state, right? So what we can do, we can press the plus button. We're going to talk a lot more about states over the course of the challenge. I can add a hover state just like this. And for this one, nothing too crazy. All I'm going to do is select the background color and maybe just darken it a touch, just like that, right? Very simple. Of course, you can add animation to the hover states if you wanted to. If you had icons, you can make them a little bit larger. You can also make the container a little bit larger, but we're keeping things pretty simple today. So we've got our outline state, we've got our hover state, and we have our default state. And if we go ahead and press the play button, because we now have an outline state, we can just hover over it. And there we go. And hover states prototype by default. So you don't have to go into prototype mode. You just design it and you're good to go. So things are looking pretty good, I think. Let's see. Here's the blob maker one more time if anyone missed it, blobmaker.app. Hop back over to Adobe XD. Now, one more thing we might want to add is, this is going to be definitely the above the fold section of this particular landing page. But we need to kind of give users an indication that additional elements might be below the fold. Most people would just start scrolling and see what happens, right? But we might want to give some sort of indication. We're going to get more into that on day 2, possibly. We're going to add some additional elements down there. But what we could do is add a little bit of a almost like a wave, sort of, right? So I can grab my rectangle. I might want to just drag out a rectangle across this artboard just like this, right? And I might want to add a little curve. So what I can do is down here, I can double click on this rectangle to access the path. And I can add a point, maybe like right about here, and maybe also add a point maybe here, right? Now, of course, if I were to just drag these points around, we get this very harsh line, which we definitely don't want, right? We don't want, this is a fairly futuristic, fun, curvy website. We don't want these harsh lines all over the place. So if I just double click on these lines, I can even double click on this one over here, we can now start to see we have this really fun looking, we can drop that down a touch and then drop this one down, right? I can also adjust the curve just like this, right? Pull that out. There we go. And that's looking pretty fun. So it kind of gives, maybe I can move this one down as well, but this will all be kind of hidden behind all the elements, right? So now we have this fun little curve. It's not the best looking curve in the world. I'd probably make some changes to it. Maybe like, I don't know. It's just not looking great, but I can pull this down a touch. But it might potentially, in addition to some of the things we're going to be adding over the next few days, it might give the indication to some users that there's more to be seen on this website, that you just have to scroll down a little bit, right? So when someone does scroll, and you're going to see this tomorrow, I can just extend this downwards and we'll be able to scroll. Of course, the background should be changed to white down here, but hopefully it gives a little bit of indication to your users that something might be down there, right? Now, the final thing I might want to block out is right beside this logo, we might want some links. And again, you know, we're keeping things fairly simple. So of course you can use text, or if you're just mocking things up, you can use a little bit of a rectangle. And I might want to round at the corners, maybe 4 pixels to keep it fairly simple. And I'm going to add this to a repeat grid, Command and Control R, and drag a few out. There we go. That looks pretty good. So we've got our landing page pretty much blocked out. And since we have it blocked out, we can very easily go in there and start adding specific information about this finance application. And over the course of the next 2 weeks, we're definitely going to be adding more. We're going to be fleshing this out. And then week number 2, we're going to be talking about the mobile experience. So that's looking pretty good. We've got our buttons. And let me show you one more quick example of what components can do. I was talking earlier about the fact that you might maybe want to change the shape of the button at some point. Because this is a component and this is the main component as indicated by the diamond at the top left, I can just dive in here and make changes, right? So if I wanted them nice and sharp, all of the states have changed because I did edit that main component. But I like the curvy buttons, so I will just leave it as is. All right, so that is just about going to do it for me for today. Big thank you to everyone who has tuned in live today. Stick around in just a few minutes. We've got Alice Lee and Amy coming up with some doodle therapy, always a fun session. Stick around for that. And that's about going to do it for me. I will see you all tomorrow, same time, same place, where we're going to continue building out this landing page. I'll see you all later.